Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever felt like your brain is just constantly running a background check on literally everyone and everything around you, you're exactly the focused learner this was built for. Today, we're breaking down a phenomenon a lot of people mistake for some kind of superpower, sharp observation. But as you're going to see, catching every little detail isn't always a wonderful gift. Actually, it's frequently a psychological trap with absolutely no off switch.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Picture this. You walk into a room. Nobody's yelling, there's zero obvious drama, but almost instantly, you feel like something is just off. An avoided glance, a slightly forced smile, or maybe a sentence that sounds totally normal but is just dripping with this hidden, fake energy. For an overly aware person, the brain has completely finished scanning the room before they've even taken off their coat.
And that brings us to the exhausting reality of this invisible trap. It's a really heavy burden to constantly see hidden layers of meaning that everyone else just walks right past. You can't just enjoy the moment, you take it home, pick it apart, and replay it over and over again. If this sounds like you, or maybe someone you know, I really want to validate that hidden internal world for you right now. It is incredibly draining.
Section 1. Origin Story. Nature versus Nurture. So, where does this incredibly sharp, unyielding awareness actually come from? Well, empirical psychology essentially divides this into two distinct paths. For the first group, this sensitivity is just pure nature. Researchers call these individuals highly sensitive persons, or HSPs for short. They are quite literally born with sensory processing sensitivity. So from day one, their nervous system acts like this ultra-fine filter. It automatically absorbs and feels everything so much more intensely. The world just inherently appears to them in, well, extremely high resolution. But let's contrast that inborn trait with our second group. Because for them, over-awareness isn't something they were born with, it's actually an inheritance of survival. Neuroscience calls this acquired state hypervigilance, and it often takes root in a really emotionally unstable childhood. Imagine a kid who had to learn to become a human radar station, literally memorizing the exact sound of car tires rolling into the driveway just to know if a parent was coming home angry, or measuring how hard a kitchen cabinet was closed to gauge the mood in the house.
If that sounds like your story, please hear me on this. You are absolutely not broken. Your amygdala, which is basically the brain's built-in danger alarm, simply recorded a message way back when that your environment wasn't safe. So it built this massive, impenetrable shield of awareness to protect you. And over time, that survival vigilance just fused right into your adult identity. You aren't overthinking because you're flawed. You're carrying around a profound intelligence that was shaped by survival.
Section 2. The mental marathon. Constant analysis and self-judgment. So how exactly does this massive awareness show up in our day-to-day adult lives? Well, it usually manifests in 5 distinct signs. And we're going to pick up the pace here a bit because this is exactly how an overly aware mind operates, incredibly fast and totally relentless.
Sign number 1 is living in constant analysis mode. For most folks, getting a 4 p.m. Slack message from the boss saying, "Come see me for a minute later," is, just a meeting. But for the over-aware, boom, a wave of tension hits. A hidden equation gets triggered. They immediately sense this invisible coldness in the wording, like, why did they use a period instead of an exclamation point? The brain just starts sprinting. Is my boss upset? Did I mess something up? Words aren't just words anymore. They are crucial data points that have to be dissected.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the biology driving all of this. A big part of this phenomenon is tied to the default mode network, which is the brain system responsible for reflection. Now, in most people, this kicks in when they're just casually daydreaming. But for the overaware, it stays completely hyperactive. Half of their mind is, nodding, smiling, holding a cup of coffee, while the other half is running a massive hidden marathon, taking notes, comparing details. Honestly, it's no wonder you feel totally exhausted just sitting at a desk all day. And that intense analytical camera doesn't just point outward, it violently turns inward. This brings us to sign 2, hyper self-awareness. An emotion isn't simply felt, it's instantly monitored. You feel sad, and immediately you cross your arms and judge it. You think, why am I sad? Does this even make logical sense? I have a great job, I should be grateful, so why do I feel so empty? Gosh, I'm a terrible person for even feeling this way.
Even pure joy gets dissected in real time. You laugh at a joke at a dinner party, and literally the very next second, part of your mind is floating up near the ceiling looking down at you, whispering, did I laugh way too loudly? Did that sound super fake? It's exactly like trying to dance while constantly staring at your own reflection in a mirror just to fix your posture.
You might hit absolutely every step, but you completely lose the actual joy and flow of the dance itself.
In psychology, they call this metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking, which is managed by your prefrontal cortex. Now, everyone has this, but for the overly aware, that switch never ever turns off. And the really tragic result of that is a profound loss of your natural presence in the present moment.
Section 3. The external burden. Absorbing the world. So, what happens when this internal laser points outward at the people around us? Well, it creates a massive external weight.
Which leads to sign 3, losing your innocence in relationships. Because of your deep, penetrating awareness, you start to see the backstage of human behavior. This ties into what's known as the theory of mind. You quickly realize people don't always say what they actually mean. A coworker praises your new project, and your brain immediately starts scanning, okay, what favor do they want? You realize that kindness often comes with conditions attached.
This creates what psychologists call the loss of relational innocence. You can no longer just blindly trust the surface of words. A simple compliment suddenly has layers. An apology feels less like true remorse and more like a tactical move to just calm a situation down. You don't necessarily become bitter or hateful, you just become extremely, heavily cautious. And honestly, this is exactly why you can feel a deep, aching loneliness, even when you're standing right in the middle of a crowded room. You're constantly seeing a layer of truth that literally no one else sees.
And this brilliantly illustrates sign 4, empathy that is always switched on. Your mind acts like highly absorbent paper. Driven by mirror neurons, you don't just logically understand someone's pain, you completely cross over into emotional empathy and absorb it into yourself. A total stranger taps their foot nervously on the bus, and suddenly your own heart rate spikes. A friend vents about their divorce, and that deep pain just sits heavy in your chest for 3 straight days. You essentially become the emotional lightning rod for everyone around you. Moving on to section 4, physical anxiety. When awareness hits the body. All those suppressed, absorbed emotions have to go somewhere, right? Well, they flow directly into your physical body, which brings us to sign 5.
Science calls this introception. It's your ability to sense the internal state of your own body. Overly aware people have extremely intensely sensitive introception. Let's say you drink a totally normal cup of espresso. Your heart beats just a little bit faster. For most people, that's just a mild caffeine alert. But for you, your brain instantly detects that elevated heartbeat, rapidly flips through its emergency data records, and absolutely screams, "Fast heartbeat equals mortal danger! We are definitely having a panic attack right now!"
And this creates just a brutal, exhausting loop. Step 1, a completely normal physical sensation happens. Step 2, your brain drastically misinterprets it as imminent danger. Step 3, your body dumps cortisol into your system in a massive stress response. And Step 4, that sudden hormone rush creates an even stronger physical sensation. Your body becomes this endless, constant stream of emergency data, making you feel entirely restless even when you are sitting perfectly safe on your own couch.
When all that internal data becomes way too much, the mind desperately searches for one final escape hatch: control. You begin running non-stop simulations just to predict and avoid pain. You think, what if that person suddenly pulls away? What if absolutely everything I've built disappears tomorrow? This intense defense mechanism is known as analysis paralysis. You dissect every single possible risk in 10 completely different versions of the future, trying so hard to protect yourself. But in the process, you completely miss out on actually living in the present.
Finally, Section 5. Adjusting the lens, finding peace. Let's all just take a nice deep breath right here. Seriously, slow down. Because the big question now is, what on earth do we do about all this? Well, you can't simply turn off perfect vision. You can't ask someone to intentionally see the world as blurry. The solution isn't to somehow become less aware. The real solution is adjusting the lens and learning how to stop carrying absolutely everything. So the crucial point here is establishing strong emotional boundaries by adopting 3 really freeing principles. First, not every silence is a hidden message. If someone replies to your text slowly, maybe they're literally just tired. Don't immediately personalize it. Second, not every emotion needs action. When your heart races, you can just calmly observe it without judgment, just say, "Oh, that's just a physical sensation," and let it pass. And third, not every insight must be spoken. You might clearly see someone's deep insecurity, but you do not have to become their therapist. You have permission to refuse to absorb it. When you really practice this art of letting go, your awareness doesn't just vanish, it actually softens, it matures,
You essentially shift the kind of light in your mind. Right now, it might feel like a sharp, intense laser that exposes every single tiny flaw, completely exhausting your defense mechanisms. But you can consciously change its intensity. You can turn it into a warm candle, a light that's bright enough to clearly understand human fragility, but gentle enough to actually warm yourself, finally bringing you a sense of real peace.
I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to really chew on. How will you use your deep awareness to truly understand life rather than being constantly imprisoned by it? If you recognized yourself in this explainer today, please know for sure that your depth is not a... Welcome to this